Oh, there we go. My video started. Hey, I'm Justin. This is Yvette. We're hanging out. We're doing some live stream, drinking some tea, rain butter pu'er. Good stuff. We're going to talk about health, hang out with you guys. If you guys show up to hang out, it'll be good times. So have you been on a live stream show before, Yvette?
No, I haven't.
Well, hey, first time for everything, huh? So this is kind of a new thing. This is my TeaCM Talks live. For those of you that are familiar, I have been doing the TeaCM Talks for a while at the Guanyin Tea House. Shout out to my folks at Guanyin. Basically an opportunity to drink a lot of tea and talk about health stuff. Hey, what's going on, Ariel? That's my sister-in-law. She's super cool. She is also a nurse. Yvette is also a nurse. So nurses in the house. What's going on? But we're just kind of hanging out, talking about health, talking about what's going on here at Stonegate, talking about wellness. Didn't have any specific topics hardcore in mind, but, you know, here we are. If you have questions or whatever, by all means, give us a shout out, ask some questions. But to start out, I figured one of the topics that's been on my mind a lot lately is kind of the difference within our current health model. And Yvette and I have been talking about this a lot recently, about the difference between the disease model of health and the health model of health. Because what we have in America right now is, by and large, a disease model of health. And I've done a couple different talks about this over the years to a number of different audiences, but this is something that I haven't really done one of the TeaCM Talks at the Tea House about. And I figured this live stream, this sort of weekly feature, would be a good place to bring this up as a theme. Because what we have in America is this disease model, and the idea is health in America is essentially a race. And there's a finish line, a concrete finish line. And the way it works is health is built around, do you or do you not have a disease? Because if you have a disease, then you are unhealthy. If you don't have a disease, then you are healthy. And there's a couple of problems intrinsic to that sort of thinking, that disease model of health thinking. And within that, one of the first problems we run into is the idea that once you don't have a disease, or if you don't have a disease, the race is basically run. You're done. And that's not really a great way to think about it. And you can see the effects of that endemic to American society, the number of people we have that aren't healthy and aren't really doing anything about it, because we as a culture are not particularly healthy. You can look at it in the foods we eat, in the way we approach our jobs and our work, the types of activities we engage in, even the things that we do that we could see as healthy, we don't always engage in a healthy way. You know, I work a lot with fitness professionals, and I work in the office with Joyce Luke of Luke's Barbell Club, who's a tremendous physical trainer, tremendous fitness professional, and has a really, in my mind, pretty healthy attitude about that. And I've seen her even back people sort of off training for health reasons in order to avoid injury, and that's not something you see a lot in the fitness world. And so even things that we do that could be considered healthy, we don't necessarily do in a healthy way, because if I'm not injured, I'm still in a health state. If I don't have a disease or a pathology, I am healthy and I don't have to do anything about that. And that's contrasted to the health mindset or health model of illness, in which health is something that I'm constantly pursuing. Health is a constant series of choices. What am I going to do today to be healthy? And what can I do today to be healthier than I was yesterday? And what can I do tomorrow that will make me healthier than I am today? It's this ongoing and continual process of growing health, as opposed to the disease model, wherein if I do not have a disease, job done. No need. And so one of the things that you get within that difference between the health model and the disease model mindset is, again, that idea of preventative care. And I think it's interesting because within a lot of Western medicine, and certainly Yvette, coming from the Western end of things, if you have any thoughts on this, feel free to jump in, because, hey, it's cool to have a guest on my very first show. Within that Western model, within that Western mindset, one of the things you get is, even in prevention, we're not really doing anything preventatively as far as health goes. Essentially what we're doing is we're trying to prevent what disease we think you'll have, and then treat that in advance. We think that you are pre-hypertensive, so we're going to give you antihypertensive medicines in advance. Now, that's not to say that there is not some lifestyle modification and things that go into that are counseled along the way, but that whole preventative medicine is the application of medicinals for a disease you don't have, essentially. We're preempting that. And that's still basically that disease model of healthcare, where what we're looking at is what disease do we think you'll have, and we'll just try to get you to the finish line before you even start the race and just make sure that you never even get that disease by treating you like you've got it already. And that's not really a great model of prevention, because prevention is, again, what healthy choices can I make every single day to avoid moving out of health, and not just avoid moving out of health, because it's not just I'm trying to avoid disease, I'm trying to increase health. You know, one of the other conundrums that really comes up with this disease model versus health model is, what do you do with patients that are unwell, and in particular patients that have a chronic illness that isn't necessarily that doesn't necessarily have an obvious endpoint? And there's lots of those. I mean, there's tons of those. You know, certainly in Texas, one of the ones that I've treated a lot and have seen frequently is chronic Lyme disease. You know, people, they get chronic Lyme disease, and it's one of those illnesses that's like, once you've got it, you've basically got it. There's not a turn around the corner from that. By the way, if you hear some exciting noises, they're doing construction on the space below me. I'm in my office right now, in case you can't tell by the vaguely Chinese medicine backdrop I've got here. I did not build this on a sound stage. This is actually my office. I was going to build this and do this on a sound stage. I asked Yvette to take care of that. She failed me, so instead we had to do this in the office itself. You know, some days you work with what you got. Thanks, Yvette. You know, but one of the problems is you get these people with these chronic illnesses, and in the disease mindset, if the finish line is to no longer have the disease, and if you've been told that this chronic illness isn't something that you can get rid of, then you've already lost the race. There's no reason to try. And I've encountered so many patients with this sort of despondency, this sense of despair about them, because in their mind, they cannot ever be well. They can't be healthy because they have disease state. And in the disease model, disease state is antithetical to health state. And it doesn't matter what you do, it's not going to make any difference, because you have disease. You will always have disease. You cannot reach the finish line. You have lost the race. But in the health mindset, the health model of healthcare, you move out of that state, because it's not about whether you have a disease or don't have a disease. What it's about is the choices that you make that day based on your state that day, because whatever state you're in is a state of health. Now, it might be a less than optimal state of health because you have this pathology that is present, but that's your state of health. And that health mindset acknowledges that from whatever state of health you're in, there is a healthier next step. There is something you can do today that will make you healthier tomorrow. And you can continually make those choices. And to me, what I've found in my patient encounters is that is often very empowering to patients, to have that health mindset and that sense that you can make choices right now that affect your health, whether you have an actual pathology, whether you have a disease or not. Because there are always choices in front of you. And one of the questions that I ask patients, and this comes back to a whole other conversation, and for those that don't know, which I think everyone that's logged on at this point has basically is either family or probably knows me through AOMA, so everybody knows. But at some point, someone else might watch this video. So if you don't know, I teach for the AOMA College of Integrative Medicine. I teach Chinese medicine. And one of the conversations I have with students a lot is when you're giving a patient lifestyle coaching, what you don't want to do is give them generic platitudes. Like, we've all heard the, oh, well, have you tried diet and exercise? But what does that mean? Like, nobody can do diet and exercise. It doesn't mean anything, first off. And secondly, even though that means something in a big sense, it's not manageable. That's not something that you can do. You can't do diet and exercise. They're too big for people to grasp. And so the suggestion that I make to people in and around that, again, coming from this model of health, not disease, is to say, okay, what choice are you going to face today that you also faced yesterday? And yesterday you made a choice that maybe it wasn't healthy. And you're going to face that one choice again today, but you can make a different choice. Really simple example. So if I'm dealing with people and they're trying to do less sugar, and they're trying to eat healthier, and they're trying to lose weight, or they're doing any of those things, I say, okay, at one of your meals yesterday, did you drink a soda or a juice or some other sugary, high sugar beverage that obviously wasn't tea, which is wonderful? Did you drink a soda? And they say, yeah, I had a soda with lunch. And I say, okay, today at lunch, are you going to drink something? Well, yeah. Okay. Would it be a healthier choice to drink water? Well, yeah, it probably would. Okay, today, at lunch, drink water instead of soda. And in that moment, you have made the decision to be healthier today than you were yesterday, assuming that you don't then make up for the fact that you didn't have a soda by having 2 cupcakes. You know, obviously there's some flexibility in and around here, but the idea is what you're doing with this health mindset is you're putting back into people's hands, and really for people that are watching this, if you're not providers and practitioners, you know, you can easily turn this stuff around. By giving yourself the choice, you are putting back into your hands the ability to meaningfully impact your health every day. Because there isn't this like long overarching goal somewhere over here with Yvette about overcoming disease. Like this is the disease finish line. You don't have to get there. What you're recognizing is that the choice you make the next step is actually what's really important. And that's a fairly empowering thing for a lot of people. And so that's something that I've really been thinking about a lot lately, which is why I decided to talk about it here, because, you know, it's my show, so it's what I'm thinking about.
So you're saying approach these goals with baby steps, with achievable lifestyle changes, such as avoiding the soda pop one day, and then maybe the next week taking it the next step by walking more, whatever, something achievable and small and
absolutely,
not
which
overwhelming.
Yeah, absolutely. Which is not, I mean, that's not like a new thing. It's not like the idea of, you know, manageable and achievable goals. It's not like I invented that. You know, you go to any life coach, any business coach, any therapist, you know, they're always going to talk about achievable goals. You know, you've got to set achievable goals. Don't set huge goals, set achievable goals. But I think the back end of that is that often people that are in this goal-setting state, they set these achievable goals, but they set these achievable goals with this eye on this distant horizon that may or may not ever arrive. And I think that what that leads to is that even though they're achieving these achievable goals, there's still this sense of immobility. Like, yeah, look at all these achievable goals I've ticked off, but I still have X disease, I still have X pathology, so why am I doing all these baby steps? I'm never gonna get there. I'm not gonna make it, or I'm not getting there fast enough. I need to do more, I need to be more aggressive. Baby steps aren't enough, because there's this distant eye on the prize thing, but the prize isn't real. You know, because you and I, having both been in healthcare in 2 different facets and now in the same facet, know that if you get healthy, something else comes along. It's like you don't stay healthy. Health isn't a state that you get to keep. It's a transient state of flux that you move in and out of constantly. And so what you're doing is you're setting yourself up for this sense of failure and disaster, that you're doing all these baby steps, but it's not getting you anywhere. You know, and so part of it is not just taking that concept that is more prevalent, that, like I said, is not new to me, of taking baby steps, but then also tying it to the fact that on some level, the baby steps are the goal. Like, once you attain that baby step, you have achieved. Now, that's not to say stop, because again, there is no finish line. Health is not a destination, it's an action. And that's one of the things, too, that, you know, I think it's a mindset shift from being to doing, you know. Under the sort of under the common mindset, I can be a thing. I am healthy. Look at me, healthy. I am healthy. But no, I'm not healthy. I am doing healthy things. Because if I am healthy, that's intrinsic to me, and it doesn't matter what I do. But I guarantee that if I got up tomorrow morning and I drank an entire bottle of wine, ate a sheet cake by myself, by that afternoon, I would not be healthy anymore. I would be a train wreck, because I am not healthy. I am doing healthy things. And so that's part of it too, is not just setting the attainable goals, but recognizing that those goals are really the endpoint goal, is to every single day make more healthy choices. And that's, to me, what's really important about this mindset, and sort of the empowerment to either the individual, if you're not a provider, or to the provider talking to patients. What's very empowering is, within this mindset, having these very small, manageable, attainable goals that are the end goal. Then what that tells you is every day what you do has this huge impact. because every day you're changing your life by making these little goals. And it also makes changing your life very possible. Because instead of saying, okay, my life will have been changed when I no longer have this illness, what you're doing is you're saying, today I made this healthier choice and that changed my life. And tomorrow I can make that same choice and I can keep that change and I can add one more choice. And if every single day you make one more healthy choice than you did yesterday and you don't backslide, then what happens is every day these choices become cumulative. And after 5 days, I'm now doing 5 things more healthy than I did before. And after 100 days, I'm doing 100 things more healthy than I did before. And after a year, I'm doing 365 things more healthy than I did before. And what's happening is I am not healthy. I am doing health every day better. And that to me is what it's about, because that's what really I think makes that mindset shift happen out of that disease state into that health state. And that's where I think lives really change. If that makes sense. Sort of, hopefully. I never know about the stuff I say. It makes sense to me. Yeah.
I remember the first time I got acupuncture and took herbs, and I had that healthy feeling that I hadn't felt, I don't know, ever, but I didn't require any coffee that week. Everything seemed clear. My brain wasn't as foggy. I didn't know you could feel so good. And I think of my patients, I'm a cardiology nurse, and I think how we give them medications that lower their libido, lower their energy, and then we tell them not to eat fats and not to eat salt and all these dietary restrictions, and they're so depressed, I guess. Like, they don't have motivation to exercise, and they feel the guilt not having motivation to exercise, and they really just want a sugary drink or a sugary treat to give them some energy, and just this vicious cycle that I see them in.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, with all the talk that I'm doing about healthy choices and personal empowerment and things like that, and I think that's really important, but that's not the sum total of it, because treatment plays a role in all of this. And certainly, as a cardiac nurse, I'm sure you've seen plenty of cases where that level of intervention was necessary for base survival. Like, you ain't going to make it unless we do something significant. And so there's a role for that. And, what you described with the acupuncture and that feeling of being well, there's a role for that. And to me, one of the big important parts about that is not that the acupuncture or the herbs or any of that stuff is so inherently corrective. It is on some level. There is a value to that. But there is also an aspect of that where what you're doing is you're creating a state of being that people aren't used to having. And by creating that and allowing them to feel that, what you're doing is you are teaching the body how it can feel and giving them the opportunity to then take ownership of that state and create that on their own. And there's the opportunity to sort of bring those things together to say, hey, I'm going to move you in this direction, and then also give you the tools to then create that state on your own. Because the goal is never to be dependent on the treatment. The treatment is just a state shift that allows you to understand what you're looking for. It's like having a map. If I said, hey, there's a really cool place over there, you could walk down the street and look for it, and you might find a lot of other cool places, but it may not be the cool place we were talking about. But if I draw you a map, or even better, get in the car and drive you there once and take you in and, buy you a falafel, and I'm like, hey, this is this really great falafel place, check it out. Now you know where it is. You have ownership of that place, and now you can take the responsibility and say, okay, the steps I need to do to get myself there. Or when Justin and I went, we got in the car, we started the car, we made sure we had the keys, we made sure we had our wallets, we checked the gas gauge, we drove to the place, these were the turns we took, we parked, we got out, we brought our keys with us, we went in, we placed the order. Like, these were the steps we took, and you sort of saw those, and we talked about them, and you understood them, and now they're yours, and now you can go have this great falafel anytime you want. And I mean, that's a little bit of an overly simplified example, because this movement towards a healthier state is often not so easy as, like, I took you there once and now you can get there anytime you want. But you at least have seen the steps, you've experienced it, you know what it feels like, and you can now, as a patient, as a provider, as any living human being, really can start moving in that direction on your own. Man, this is good tea. Rain butter tea, by the way, super awesome. Quick time check. Okay, we still got some time. And I mean, a couple thoughts that go with that. Two thoughts particularly. One, sort of continuing this discussion of philosophy, and then the other, more related to my practice and how I'm trying to incorporate this a little bit more in my own thinking within the practice. But a lot of what we're talking about is there's this concept that comes up in Chinese medicine, Chinese philosophy, particularly often in the Taoist components and Taoist practices, Qigong, martial arts, and things like that. There's this idea called reversing the cycle. And again, it's that movement out of the disease mindset into the health mindset. And in our disease mindset in modern America, one of the things that we run into is this idea of, as we age, it's this inevitable process of breakdown, and that once we get old, things have just gone wrong and things will be bad. So we've got to live while we're young and then die while we're old. And the reason that exists is because in the disease mindset, there's this idea that if I'm on the earth long enough, inevitably I'm going to acquire a pathology of some sort, and then I am no longer healthy. I have moved out of a state of health. I am now in a state of disease, and that's old age, and that's how it goes, because I've been on the earth long enough that something's going to happen, right? But in the health mindset, since we don't care if we have disease or not, it's just a process of trying to be healthier every day, what happens is growing older is actually a tremendous benefit. The analogy I always give, because I love Hong Kong Kung Fu cinema, but if you watch a lot of Kung Fu cinema, the baddest dude in the room is always the old dude in the corner with like the long white beard and like long white hair. Like that dude's always the bad dude you don't mess with. And the reason for that is because he's just had more days. And the idea of this health mindset, of this health model that breaks down this disease idea that as I age, inevitably I'm going to acquire pathologies which mean I'm no longer healthy, what that means is every day I do these healthy things. And like I said, if I make one new healthy choice every day, then I have one new healthy aspect of my life every single day. And if I'm 80 years old, and we'll even say that for my 20s, I just totally effed off everything. I was like, yeah, I'm young, I'm going to do whatever. That means that still for 60 years, every day, I was making one more healthy choice and getting healthier and healthier. And by the time I hit 80, that's 60 years of modeling and increasing this healthy lifestyle, and also every day practicing my meditation and my Qigong, and every day practicing my martial arts, and every day becoming stronger and more powerful and more vital and more fit. And suddenly what we get is old age is this beautiful treasure of cultivation and health and well-being because I've made these choices. And that's really, one of the things that, to kind of tie into the practice a little bit, one of the things that I've been doing a lot here at Stonegate, and been having a lot of discussions with my partner here at the office, Brett Rogers, about is the idea that we don't really want to live under this treatment model anymore. Because, as much as I love this thinking, because of the nature of medicine in America, my own practice has sort of become this treatment model. You don't feel good, you come to my office, I treat you, you feel better, you leave. But that's, on some level, it's still that disease model thinking, and I want to get out of that. And some of the language that we've started using around the office is, instead of talking about illness or pathology, we've started talking about longevity and vitality. How do I maintain vitality throughout my life? Because that's longevity. Because to me, longevity doesn't mean I live to be 115. I mean, obviously that's the definition of longevity, but it's not about that. To me, longevity is that when I'm 70, I feel like I do right now, or better. I'm more active, I'm more vital, I can do more. That's longevity to me, is the ability to maintain my vitality through all my years. Whether my father died at 72. But the day before he died, he was doing Tai Chi on a beach and re-roofing buildings. And to me, even though he didn't make it late in years, that is longevity. And he did his best, and not all the choices he modeled were healthy, but he made a lot of healthy choices. He maintained his meditation and his Tai Chi practice. He was physically active. He tried to, in general, eat well. And that's that process, and that's a lot of what inspires me, and that's a lot of what I'm trying to create here in this practice, is a move away from that disease model of you come in and get a treatment to that longevity model of how do we just maintain that. And one of the new things we're starting, shameless plug alert, is we're starting out twice a week. Hopefully it will get more popular because we want to expand it out a fair amount. But we're starting essentially a community-style hour from 12 to 1, both Tuesdays and Thursdays. And during that community style hour, we're not just going to bring you in and ask you what's wrong and treat you. In fact, we're not going to talk to you a whole lot. Ideally, we've probably seen you here in the office a couple times, and we know your case a little bit. We're going to do some pulse, we're going to do some tongue. We might have a very brief, simple dialogue, but we're not going to talk a lot, because the other thing we're layering onto that is during those treatments, one starting at noon, one starting at 12:30, so 2 different half-hour blocks. During those treatments, we're also going to be leading a guided meditation. Because to me, a lot of that is what's going to draw people in and say, hey, you're a participant in this. You can make a choice with this process to engage. You're not just on a bed passively letting me do medicine to you. You and I are working together, and yes, I'm going to work with this, and yes, I'm going to create that sense of well-being that Yvette talked about very eloquently. But more than that, you can participate in that process with me. And I'm going to try to give you the tools, because the guided meditations will lead you on in that mental state and that ability to find that quietude and that connection to the body. That's not something that's like when you walk through the door, that's gone. You get to keep that. You take that with you. I take the needles out and keep those here, biohazard and all that. But that meditative state, that travels with you. You can recreate that on your own, and that's far more powerful and far more healing than my needles will ever be. And so in and around this transition from disease state to health state, that's one of the things I'm really trying to capture, is this idea of each individual participating in this creation of that day-to-day health state. So that's kind of my thoughts on that. How are we doing time-wise? And that's about time to wrap up. So if anybody out there has any questions, fire them off right now, because I've got about 2 minutes left that I'll hang out and answer questions. If Yvette has any questions, she can fire those off as well. Otherwise, we're just going to hang out and drink tea for a second and then log off. For those that didn't catch the beginning and desperately want to, as soon as I log off here, I'm going to flip over and talk about a lot of the same stuff over on my Instagram, which if you're not following anyway, you can go follow that. Stonegate I always leave the at off. You can tell I'm too old for this crap. At Stonegate_life on Instagram. If you want to hang out and watch some of my training videos and Qigong videos and stuff like that. Yeah, so there you go. Healthy living. Do it every day. Thanks for hanging out with me, Yvette. Let's drink a little more tea. Toast our way out. I'm going to be doing this every Monday, 12 to 12:30 here, 12:30 to 1 on Instagram. So if you want to hang out and ask questions, also feel free to message me if you have like a topic or a question you'd like answered or something you want discussed. By all means, fire it off. It can be about Chinese medicine. It can be about health. It can be about fiction. I published a fiction novel. We can talk about that later. But yeah, fire them off. Otherwise, we'll see you guys next week. Again, thanks for being here, Yvette.